Hello, I'm Klex and welcome to Hardcore Ender Expansion Showcase. This is a part of a series where I do videos about mods that I work on. The first episode, a sneak peek about a scorching pickaxe in this mod, is already out. You can find a link to that in the description. There's a playlist. And this is the second episode. And because it is a showcase, I'm not going to go into great detail about the feature. And I chose Showcase because this feature is huge. But basically I'm just going to show you the very basics of how to use that feature and leave the rest up to you. So as you may have guessed, we are going to take a look at the runes and also the charms, which is what the runes are used for. So in order to create anything with the runes, you will need a charm pouch. And that is created like this. Basically any kind of rune in the middle. I wouldn't suggest using the Rune of Void as it is a little more rare than the other types of runes. And then 4 pieces of leather and 4 pieces of end powder in this kind of alternating shape. This will get you an inactive charm pouch. Before we dig into the charm pouch and the charms themselves, we are going to talk a little bit about how do you get these runes. In order to get the runes, you will need to explore the Ravaged Dungeon, which is a new dungeon introduced in Hardcore Ender Expansion 1.6.2 and it spawns in one of the variations of Infested Forest biome. So you will have to explore quite a bit to find it, so I hope you like exploring. And basically the primary source of the runes are chests around the dungeon, but you can also get them by killing the lice. Sorry, I'm in peaceful. These little buggers. So these are the guys that spawn also in the Ravaged Dungeon, and you may notice that each of them has kind of a different color. And when you kill one of them, you have a very small chance that you will get one of the rune colors. So I can only get the Rune of Power, which is the red rune from this guy, but I can either get the Rune of Defense or the Rune of Void. And it's not just a visual feature. The runes also control some of the abilities and properties of the lice. So, of course, the Rune of Defense adds kind of an armor to these guys. So you basically see that I just hit him and it decreased the armor instead of the actual health value, and it's accompanied by this little particle, and the armor regenerates, so it may take quite a bit to kill. Then you have other obvious ones like the green will give them more health, the red will give them more power, etc. But the Rune of Void is the interesting one because that gives them an ability. Currently there are 2 abilities with plans to expand with more abilities in the near future. You can either have massive knockback, so if you get hit by one of these, you will either get massive knockback, which is going to make fighting in the dungeon quite tricky, or the second ability the lice may have is converting some of the damage you take from them into magic damage, which means that basically bypasses armor. So if you see one of the lice with gray pattern on their back, I guess, or top, I don't know, you should either run or try to kill them as fast as you can, because it may actually give you the rune. Okay, now let's open the charm pouch because it is a key component of this entire system. So you can see charm pouch here on the left. I'm not sure if the cursor is visible, but you can see the background of the item slots. And then there is Runecrafting. This is how you create the charms, by combining different runes. And there are currently about 80 different recipes. You will need at least 3 runes for each of the recipes, but you can also use 4 and 5 to get either better effects or a completely different rune or a completely different charm. So let's start with the obvious ones. If I put 3 runes of power in any kind of shape. The key is that there have to be 3 of them into the Runecrafting section. It gives me a Charm of Power, which provides a 25% damage bonus. But if I add more, so that's the 4th rune of power, now it's 45% damage. And if I add one more, it's 60. So you can basically do that with all of the normal runes, except for the Void rune, because that one is special. So Rune of Agility gives me speed, 4 of them give me more, and 5 of them give me more. But there are also some more interesting recipes. Some of them require you to think what you will need, because they often involve multiple types of runes, and changing the amount of each of the runes has a different effect. And you are limited because you can only put the maximum of 5 different runes in here. So you really have to kind of try out different combinations and see which one you will like the best. Sometimes there's just no 100% absolutely best combination. Each of them is unique and good. So let's try putting a couple runes of power and then a couple runes of magic. And you can see that we have Charm of Magic Penetration. This one is kind of interesting, it's not the most interesting one though. But the effect is definitely very powerful, because part of the damage you deal penetrates armor. And by changing the runes, we can then have different amount of the damage that gets converted. One of the more interesting ones is Agility, Defense, and Magic. And that gives the Charm of Damage Redirection, which is a very interesting concept, I think, because if there is a nearby creature, then part of the damage that you take gets redirected to it. And you can not only change the percentage of how much damage gets redirected, but you can also specify the amount of creatures it will try to. So if I add one more Rune of Agility, you have less damage per creature, but it redirects to 2 nearby creatures instead of 1. So previously you would have 15% damage redirection, and now if you have 2 nearby creatures apart from you and the mob that attacked you, you can redirect up to 24% of the damage. So it is kind of a jeopardy, because you are not always sure to have a set amount of creatures near you. So you can either take risk by having more creatures to redirect the damage to and have higher total number of the redirected damage, or you can choose to have more damage redirected but only have 1 creature to redirect it to. So for now I'm going to go with kind of middle road, so that is a decent amount of damage redirected to 2 nearby creatures. So I'm gonna take that, and now I'm going to make Charm of Blocking Repulsion. This one requires 4 runes, that is power, then defense, void, and agility. And you can see that without the agility it had a different kind of charm, but I'll leave that up to you to figure out what it is. But here we have Charm of Blocking Repulsion. So when you take damage while you're blocking, you take less damage, and you also cause a knockback to the creature that damaged you. And again, you can play with it a little bit. So if I add more agility, you will have more knockback, but if I add more defense, then you have higher damage. But more knockback is more fun, so I'm gonna go with 2 runes of agility, and that is the Charm of Blocking Repulsion. I'm also going to create a very useful charm a charm of last resort. So I'm gonna put in defense, then agility, magic, just kind of a random shape, and void. And again, as you can see, it's a completely different charm, even though you change just one of the runes. This is the charm of last resort, and what it does is that it teleports me away from the creature that would kill me, and it also cancels the last hit. You can also notice that there is a little text that says this charm will not stack effects with other charms of this type. You can stack effects of most of the existing charms. There are like 2 or 3 charms that cannot stack the effects, but if you, for example, have 2 charms of damage redirection, they will combine the effects together. So I've done a little bit of work in the background, and before we go and test the charms, I will show you how to activate them. So we'll put these 3 charms into the charm pouch. You can just use shift click as with a regular GUI, and then what you need to do is, because the charm pouch says that it is inactive, so you sneak and right click, and now it is active. You can only have one charm pouch active at the same time. If I activate the other one, the previous one will get deactivated. And what I did for this charm pouch, I just added a bunch of charms of agility. So you can see the maximum speed that you can get from the charms of agility if you combine them together. But now let's check out the other charm pouch that we just created. So we have the charm of blocking repulsion, damage redirection, and last resort. So I will showcase all of them and then we will wrap it up. So let's check out the charm of blocking repulsion. So if it just attacks me, it did some damage, but if I block, apart from the damage that vanilla blocking will decrease, you also get the extra 20% from the charm and you get the repulsion effect, which is pretty awesome, if I do say so myself. So now let's try out the damage redirection. So for that I'm gonna go here and see if this slime can hit me. And you can see that he basically killed other 2 slimes using the damage redirection. But be careful about this, because not only it attacks mobs, it can also attack players. So if you are in a group, it's perhaps not the best idea to use them. And now let's check out the charm of last resort. It is kind of random, but hopefully it will save me from the inevitable death, and it did not. But that's okay, I'm just going to find another slime and hopefully get more lucky this time. The teleportation is random, so it doesn't always find a spot for you to go to, which is kind of unfortunate, but I will try to improve the code a little bit so it is a little more reliable. And there we go, worked this time. So I'm definitely going to improve the code a bit, because it seems to fail occasionally, even though there is a lot of space. But that is going to be all I'm gonna show you from the charms. I hope that you give these a try, because I think they are a very nice addition to the mod. Don't forget to check out my Patreon. I recently added a completely new reward, where you can get your Minecraft skull into the mod if you decide to pledge at least $16 per month. And there are also other rewards, so I will be grateful for any monetary support, because it takes a lot of time to create these mods. Also, don't forget to check out my Twitter, where I often post updates and announcements and random screenshots and stuff, so all the links are going to be in the description, as well as links to download the mod. But this is going to be all from me, and I'll see you later.